The screaming stopped hours ago, but the silence that followed was worse. Silence had its own weight in a conquered city. The year was 867 of the Common Era. 9 days had passed since the great heathen army captured York, and the city still smelled of smoke, ash, and loss. Inside what had once been a church, a woman crouched against the stone wall, listening. Her name was Eilifu of Northumbria. She was 29 years old. 9 days earlier, she had been a noblewoman, the wife of a landholder whose estate stretched from the river to the edge of the great forest. Her children were educated by monks. Her household numbered dozens. Her life had been structured, secure, and respected. Now, everything she had known existed only in memory. Her husband was dead. Her children were dead. Her servants were scattered, killed, or taken. The city around her was no longer hers. Even her name felt fragile, as though it belonged to someone else. The church had been turned into a holding place for captives. 43 women shared the space with her. Noble women, merchants' wives, daughters of craftsmen. Anyone the raiders believed still had value. Iron collars rested cold against their necks, linked by chains that forced them to move together, erasing individuality through metal and weight. Outside, voices carried through the broken doorway, the harsh consonants of Old Norse, laughter, arguments over plunder. Somewhere beyond the walls, the great heathen army settled into occupation. Eilifu had learned, over the past days, to recognize the sounds. She knew when warriors were celebrating, when disputes were being settled, when rituals were underway. She also knew which sounds meant to look away, to be still, to survive by not being noticed. Through the doorway she saw them, the berserkers. They were different from the other raiders. Even the Northmen seemed wary of them. They wore animal skins, wolf and bear, and moved with an intensity that never fully faded, even after battle. The stories about them were whispered among captives and warriors alike. They fought without fear, without restraint, and afterward they were given privileges others were not. One of them was approaching the church. His name, Eilifu would later learn, was Sigurd the Red. He had distinguished himself during the assault on York's walls. As reward, he had been promised first claim among the high-status captives. The silence inside the church tightened. Everyone understood what was coming, even if no one spoke. What happened to Eilifu, and to thousands of women like her during 2 centuries of Viking raids on the British Isles, is rarely discussed. Popular culture shows Vikings as explorers, settlers, traders, and warriors bound by honor codes. Those things existed, but they are not the full story. What followed the raids was a system, organized, repeated, documented. This is not legend. It comes from Anglo-Saxon chronicles, Irish annals, Scandinavian sagas, legal texts, and archaeology. The Vikings recorded what they did because they did not consider it shameful. They considered it normal. After a settlement fell, captives were processed. The first stage was sorting. Clothing, jewelry, physical condition, and bearing were assessed quickly. Nobility was identified almost immediately. Eilifu's dyed wool garments and gold rings marked her status. She was separated from common captives and held with other high-value women. The second stage was claiming. Elite warriors were rewarded for their service with first choice among captives. This was not chaotic looting, but structured distribution. Berserkers, because of their battlefield role, were often first. Eilifu learned quickly. She watched what happened to those who resisted. She chose compliance not because it changed her fate, but because it reduced suffering. For 11 months, she remained in captivity as the army moved, traded, and prepared captives for market. Not all women experienced the same fate. Edbur of Mercia was 19 when she was captured. The daughter of a powerful noble, she was claimed by a Viking chieftain of royal lineage. Her captivity was marked by status. Fine clothing, better food, servants who were themselves enslaved. She adapted, learned the language, made herself useful as an intermediary. She survived nearly 20 years in captivity, dying far from home but alive longer than most. Quenrith of East Anglia chose a different path. She resisted at every stage, fought, attempted escape, refused compliance. The sources describe her story as a warning. Her resistance was met with escalating measures designed to force submission. She survived less than 2 years after capture. Her body failed long before her will did. Hild of Lindisfarne was a nun, taken during the famous raid of 793. Her religious identity made her a symbolic target. The sources describe her treatment through careful euphemism, emphasizing desecration rather than detail. Her story was preserved not for her sake, but as proof of Viking cruelty used to rally resistance. Gifu of Wessex survived because of skill. A trained healer, she was valuable intact. She treated wounds, prepared medicines, and became indispensable. After 12 years, she was freed. She never returned home, but built a life in the Danelaw. Most captives did not share her fate. The final destination for many was the slave market. Hedeby, Birka, Dublin, Copping. These were major commercial centers, connecting northern raids to labor demands across Europe and beyond. Arabic sources describe Scandinavian captives being sold as far away as the Islamic world. Transport was brutal. Many died along the way. Others were sold multiple times. By the time Elifu reached a market, she had crossed seas, changed hands, and watched others disappear. She was sold, to whom the sources do not record. She vanished into the system, one of thousands of English women absorbed into Scandinavian society. Genetic evidence confirms their presence. Their stories mostly are gone. This is what the Viking Age looked like for its victims. Not honor, not glory, not myth, but systems, markets, chains, survival. Elifu of Northumbria was 29 when York fell. After 11 months of captivity, she disappeared from the historical record. Like so many others, her ending is unknown. What remains is the evidence, and the responsibility to look at it honestly.